still remains our theme. But today, the specific topic we'll be talking about is changing the change. I told you that we don't use the word change anymore because of all the different connotations, so, but changing the change, and the sub to that again is how to move Nigeria from where it is today to where it should be. Where it should be is something that we're largely all agreed on. We might not be agreed on the final the grainier element of it, but where we think our country should be, most of us have this perfect idea of it. And for that reason, it's just about discussing where are we today as a nation. How did we get to where we are today? And how do we get to where we're going? Beyond this, it's also going to be he is specifically going to be addressing these allegations, the things to do with the alleged extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu, the attack on Sunday Igboho's house, all these key issues, because he's a seasoned human rights campaigner, and what we've told him is to put his old Amnesty International cap on. If he were to be the one still writing the reports for the global headquarters, for all the ambassadors and the diplomatic corps, to give them a first an official account, not from government but from international organizations of what the events have been in Nigeria, what would that report entail? Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting further time, it is my pleasure to welcome Comrade Basheer Ameen. Ameen, you're welcome. Thanks for being with us once again.
Thank you, Tunde. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm just gonna let you fire on. We need to just go straight into what we're discussing. And I'll let you take it the way you prepared it anyway. Maybe you want to take your slide first and then you address other things later. What is your, how would you want? And then we're going to leave 30 minutes at the end for questions and contributions from our in-house panels and from social media as well.
Well, I think I'm here till any time you want me.
Okay.
Unless if I need to answer the call of nature, but apart from that,
okay,
I'm here to address. I'm always here to be part and parcel of Pride,
Thank you so
and I'm
much.
here to support the organization in whatever way I can.
Thank you so much.
And I'm proud of what Pride have been able to do so far.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
I might not comment on the platform, but I read every single messages.
Thank you so much.
Every single one, I read it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, so changing the change. How do we move Nigeria from where it is today to where it ought to be? Ameen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tunde. And our protocol observer, I also kind of
just bear with me just 1 minute. Let me just quickly recognize those who are in house here with us today, and for those who are watching us, we're streaming simultaneously to YouTube and to Facebook, where the names are basically the same, almost the same on YouTube. On Facebook, it is Plied GAHRD, together PLIDEGAHRD. Once again, PLIDE. GAHRD, but on YouTube you just have an hyphen. You have Plied PLIDE hyphen or dash, so GAHRD, which is GAHRD. So you can follow us on that. Please feel free to make your comments on those platforms. We'll do our best to include it. And on the in-house panel tonight, it is my pleasure to welcome our North America coordinator, Comrade Michael Aluko. Comrade Michael, thanks for joining us. And I'm just calling you as you appear on my screen. Then our Deputy Secretary General, Kenny Okunuga. We've got Ms. Oluwatosin Adepoju, one of our newest members. We've got Comrade Olada Afolabi. We've got Abidemi Onojobi. We've got Kehinde Akonde. We've got Raman Famudi Timi. We've got okay, it's not here yet. Okay, then of course my Secretary General, Comrade Shola Fahimi. Thanks for joining us. So over to you, Ameen.
Okay, thank you, Tunde. Just to mention, I share this on my organization platform in case any of my staff are interested in joining. Just to mention that.
Absolutely, they're welcome to join in. Thank you so
I have a
much.
presentation, but before that, I just want us to put our thinking cap on, and first of all, to start with a background on how do we get to this position? How do we have such a beautiful country? And we got to a stage whereby we are no longer proud of what we have. You know, it's a common saying that people use on Facebook. Who did we offend to get us to this level? And I think that hypothesis should even be a subject of a doctorate research to actually look at how we got to this situation. Okay? But the important thing I first of all need to mention is that we are not alone in this conflict and in this crisis. We are not alone. In many West African countries, there are some similarity, not of the same degree, but there are challenges that they are. I think in Africa, we can look at an exclusion of Rwanda and some few other ones. Conflict becomes an ongoing issue. And there is a big correlation between economic situation that becomes an ongoing and the conflict that emanates from it. Let me say this, that we just, my NGO called URIDA just launched the first homegrown human rights report in May, a report of over 600 pages in which we addressed most of the challenging issues in the West African region. And we are not looking at it from naming and shaming point of view. It's just like, let's tell ourselves the truth. Let's document what has been happening ourselves. It is a report developed by West Africans and for West Africans and beyond. And we are able to articulate our challenges. So if you want to know about the security situation in the region, you can see that in chapter 8 of the report. If you want to know about the thematic human rights issues, climate change, how it has led to conflict, it is in that report. If you want to know about prominent human rights cases in each of the countries, which is very interesting because then you can discover that issue of banditry and kidnapping is not just a Nigerian issue. It's also a big issue in Burkina Faso and Benin Republic. You can discover that issue of herdsmen. It's not just a Nigerian issue. It's also an issue in some other African countries. The issue of the Fulanis, it's not just a Nigerian issue. It has relevance to some of the conflicts happening in Ghana and some other places. So we need a kind of an holistic approach to address some of these issues. Just to mention that, I think if you go to our website, you have a pop-up to download that report if you think it's useful. And that's actually opened some opportunities in research to kind of look at how we kind of get to this situation where we have lost total faith in a country endowed with fantastic human capital, enriched mineral resources, and this is what we can do. I don't know if many of the listeners they have been to. Now, if you just go back to about 10 years ago, if you are going to the Liberian airport to fly out of the country, you don't really need 2 hours to get there because it's just like a kiosk. it's just like the size of a 3-bedroom flat. So it will just take you roughly like 10 minutes to go through immigration and everything like that. And you're not kind of walking like 10 minutes before you get to the boarding gate. You can see it right there where you are checking in. So I know they have a new airport now, I'm just saying going back. And if you miss your flight in Liberia, you are not going to turn up at the airport the following day because the flight might be once a week. So you can actually compare that the Nigeria MM2 airport is bigger than the Liberia International Airport. And the same thing, some other African countries that we have seen. And you start to look at the abundance of capital. And you look at those in government and you start to ask your question, are they the best we can produce? Are they the best we can produce? It's a question that we need to continuously ask ourselves. And at times you kind of think that who are actually the people advising the government? I recently came back from Nigeria sometimes in mid-June, and I was opportune to have a meeting with one of the European embassies, and we were talking about the Twitter ban. And their view is entirely different from mine. And my view is there are fundamental problems wrong with the government response. Because you can't run the government on vendetta. You can't even say that because the tweet of the president was deleted, we need to respond on that. You can't run a government like that. And under the international diplomatic framework, there are classes and categories. States and companies doesn't come into the same categories. They don't. They really don't. They try to pair themselves. If the US government have a problem with, let's say one of the mobile companies, like Glo, the US government are not going to contact Glo directly. They are going to contact their embassy. The embassy is going to contact the NCC, the regulatory body, and the regulatory body is going to contact Glo. For a government to put themselves at the same level of negotiation with a company, it looks so absurd under international diplomatic framework. So absurd. So, and the question you start to ask yourself is, who are the people advising this government? Who are they that will continue to do things that some of us feel ashamed? But I'm just raising some of these questions for us to say that we need this kind of sober reflection to say this is not just a problem of the federal government. This is not just a problem of the state government. This is a collective problem. And I will try to show that. Okay, let me just try to share my screen. So you have to put this together quickly because I got a late request to kind of deal with this. So we are looking at changing the change, okay? And I think we should start from what do we mean by change? We are not talking of APC change in this situation. And when you look at basic dictionary, you talk about make someone or something different, alter or modify. Are we trying to make the country different? Are we trying to alter the country? Are we trying to modify the country? Or are we trying to replace something with something else, especially something of the same kind that is newer and better? or substitute one thing for another? Do we have a configuration in our IT hub that we say, well, this model will work better than what we have now and what it is? So these are questions that we need to be asking ourselves. Okay? Now, we need to actually look at where we are coming from, at the same time, where we are going. Okay? And this is what I think. I try to put together a gap analysis for the country. Okay? A is the current state where we are. What does that say? Lack of good governance, lack of human and physical security. We really don't think that we're having good governance. We really don't think we're having accountable governance. I look at one of a statistic put up on social media recently by one of the scholars, and he was calling all the head of states, all the president Nigeria, including the present one, and it's called Buhari 20%, and that was a study done 4 years ago. Okay, and people are arguing that it should be less than that. So none of them actually scored 50%. So we don't think we're having good governance. And we can use Rwanda as a baseline to determine that. We don't think we have human and physical security. I have a lot of colleagues that works at international organizations. And some of them tell me that when they go home, they either stay in Abuja or Lagos, they can't go to their village because they don't have ransom to pay. There is no security.
How are you, sir? Sorry, were you supposed to
lack of innovation and creativity.
Church to a meeting, from the meeting.
We are not annexing
yesterday was
all that the youth
was
have to offer.
Program in church.
Okay, so, there is no lack of sense of ownership. We are not proud like the Americans to say, yes, this is my country. We are ashamed of the country. And some people have made us to get to that level. Yes, we are not having a country we are proud of. This is not an exhaustive list. Yes, just a little basic information to explain where we are for now.
Is it from the BOT? Yes, I saw it.
Where do we desire to be? Is B.
In fact,
where we have responsible government, accountable government, safe and secure country, a sense of ownership, articulation of your ambition can actually be what you want to be, growth and development.
He's not the one who wrote that
now,
as well.
To get from point A and B,
people that put it to
we need two levels of changes.
He doesn't understand the import of it.
We need a political change and we need a cultural change.
I was shocked when I saw that response.
One of the other is not going to work. We need both to get us to that level. So when we look at political change, we are talking about, are we talking about changing our territorial configuration? Will that solve the problem?
No, I'm on our webinar, sir.
Do we need to divide Nigeria
every Sunday?
Will that solve the problem? Are we talking about changing the political class?
Yes, no, I don't even want
to know
any of these things.
Of people that call themselves politicians now? And by changing them, you might have better, responsible governance.
Okay.
Do we need to change our system?
I'll call now to ensure Mayowa is there, and
is this
of course I trust
system
Mayowa.
of government working for us?
Just once
it's not.
He's always scared, but I trust.
Changing the cost of
government into all the things that are going on.
Is the cost of governance very expensive? Is that something we need to look into?
Yes, sir.
Changing or improving our electoral system. Is that something we need to consider?
It wronged me too.
To get to these changes, we need some drivers.
Told me again what he heard about who did it. So
we can use the instrument of election to prepare the change. The system of recall to recall some of the politicians at the National Assembly,
So
the alignment of political support.
He said there's 6 and then there's and then
Can we decide to say, okay, we
I said,
really
who is
don't
it from
want
my
these
set? He
two
said he doesn't
political
know the
parties that
person, but
have
they
no
told him
major
someone from
differences? We
92
want
said.
to
I
go a
said, no
new way.
problem. That I don't really
Do
know
we
what
need
is
to
going
come up
on.
with a
But
disruptive
that if he
electoral
has the details, he
intervention
should get back to me.
that
You know,
change the
so
entire political polity? These
okay,
are
no
something
problem,
we
sir.
need to think about as a driver.
Okay,
Those
okay,
are
sir.
food for thought.
No problem, sir.
Then
No
we go to
problem,
the
sir.
cultural change.
Absolutely.
Under the cultural
Absolutely, sir.
change,
Yes, sir.
are
Absolutely.
we talking of
No
changing of
problem,
our
sir.
entire
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Bye, sir.
orientation? Are we changing the perception of things? Are we changing the glorification of unclear source of wealth? You know, we all saw what happened over the weekend in Anambra. Even the richest man in the world will ever not do that. And these are being glorified on social media as indicators of success. Are we thinking about that? Are we changing the way we support each other? Do we patronize the Nigeria company so that they can succeed? Or do we need to change our business model? This we need to think about at the level of the citizen. And to do that, we also need to look at some drivers. Is the community willing to change? Do you want to ensure protection of human rights, equality before the law, orientation of the mind? How do we decolonize the mind? Collective enforcement of power through legal means. How can we show that we are powerful with numbers? So these are kind of little thoughts I put together to move up from where we are to where we are supposed to be. And you will agree with me that if we turn these two, political change and culture, into a plan of action, apart from the fact that it's going to be enormous, there's going to be problem on the roads because of the kind of people we are and the orientation we have gone through over the years. Now, having said that, so I will now go to the issue of succession, which is a very topical issue when it comes to this. This has been going on in almost all the parts of the countries. Now, but people have really not find time to sit down and look at how this can work, even the educated people. Okay? Are we stuck in this configuration we call Nigeria? Article 2 of the Nigerian Constitution says we are. And he used the word indivisible, indissoluble sovereign state. That is the language of the Constitution. Okay? So, for us to be able to pull out or divide the country or separate any part of the country, we need an amendment to the law. Okay? There are a lot of people who have said, yeah, the way to do it is to get a referendum, whether the Igbos want to go on their way, the Yoruba want to go on their way. But the Constitution does not recognize a referendum for secession. It recognizes it if you want to recall a member of the parliament, or you are talking of a state boundary, to adjust a state boundary between one state and another. Let me also mention that even though I said this, we are all aware of Bakassi case, okay? And we know Bakassi left Nigeria, but that is not because of the agitation of Bakassi people. It's because of the inter-country conflict between Nigeria and Cameroon. And it's based on the Court of Justice decision in 2006. So the leaving of Bakassi is seen as complying with the court decision. And it does not fall under the constitution of Nigeria as it is. So let's look at this call for change. Okay? Group it into 5. Nnamdi Kanu case, Sunday Igboho case, Omoyele Sowore case, Boko Haram banditry. Now, not all of them are actually calling for secession. That's why I use the word change, not secession alone. We are all aware of how Nnamdi Kanu case transformed. We are aware that he continuously referred to Nigeria as a zoo. There's no saying that his position is that we don't want to be part of this zoo. Okay? We are aware there is an ongoing prison case between the federal government and Nnamdi Kanu. And there's a case of John Bain. But let us first of all come back and say, who does Nnamdi Kanu represent? He has an organization called IPOB, just like we have PLIDE. Okay. Is it possible for us to assume that PLIDE represent the entire aspiration of people in Ondo State or Ekiti State or the whole Southwest Nigeria? We need convincing evidence to prove that. We also need convincing evidence to say that while all members of IPOB are Igbos, not all Igbos are members of IPOB. So what happened to those who do not subscribe to the objective of IPOB? These are just questions for us to reflect on. Now, we are aware that Kanu was brought back to the country. And I read with dismay one international human rights organization that says no human right has been violated in bringing Kanu back. I beg to disagree on that. And I lay my evidence based on 2 instruments. One is the Convention Against Torture, and the other is the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court. Okay? Don't let us even belabor why Kanu was in Kenya. Okay? I hope we know that Kenya and Nigeria are part of the Commonwealth. So there is an extradition agreement between all Commonwealth countries. So Kenya is under obligation to extradite a criminal to Nigeria, and Nigeria, we have to, all the Commonwealth countries are part of this. I'm not sure whether Nnamdi Kanu is aware of this or his legal officer drew his attention to this. Now, if there is an Interpol request for somebody and the person is, is found in one of these territories, then there's a requirement to bring the person into custody. Okay? Which I think the Kenya authority did. But there are certain obligations on that. Under the Convention Against Torture and the Rome Statute, let me start with Convention Against Torture. If you find a torturer in your territory, you bring the torturer to custody. Then you now go to the magistrate court to determine the identity of the torturer, the allegation against the torturer, and the next call of action and jurisdiction, whether the torturer have to be extradited to the country where the crime was committed, or the country that is holding the torturer in custody can actually try the torturer under the convention. But there is a legal clearance that needs to be done. Under the Rome Statute on International Criminal Court, if anybody is alleged to have committed an offense under Article 5 of the Rome Statute, and that person is found in the territory of a member state of the Rome Statute, then the obligation is for that member state to bring that person into custody and then to take the person to a magistrate court for the magistrate judge to identify and agree that the identity of the person is the same or with the person being alleged. That's number one. For the magistrate court to get a guarantee for the protection of the human rights of the detainee. Okay? And the third thing is to make sure that the person, you have a guarantee that the person will get fair trial wherever is going to be prosecuted. So these are fundamental things when it happened. Now, but with Nnamdi Kanu's case, I'm not sure he actually saw any four walls of any magistrate court in that case. It might be a kind of a rendition operation. Like his lawyer said, he was arrested and then handed over to the Nigerian authority and taken away. Now, this might be a kind of a system that works within the security architecture, but not the human rights architecture. It might be. Because there might also be an immigration trial to determine whether somebody is deported or not. Okay? But also the intriguing thing is that Kanu wasn't carrying a Nigerian passport. He was carrying a British passport. But there is something that is fundamental that might have gone against Kanu. If you jump bail, then we are fugitives. And if you are fugitives, the best thing is to take you back to where you ran from to continue your case and to be able to come before that court of law. So that might be an issue. But basically, I'm not sure that there is any guarantee of the protection of the human rights of Nnamdi Kanu. Even though we know that Nnamdi Kanu claimed that he was tortured, the lawyer said there are evidence of torture by the Kenya security operative. Those are violations of his right. But we also know that it is possible that the Nigerian government are going to be careful. Because if they go to a magistrate court with all the legal access, resources before Nnamdi Kanu, just to hear the case of whether to be extradited to Nigeria or not may take years to resolve. So maybe they are trying to avoid that, but they can't take the laws into their hands. They still need to do it. I presume, this is my personal opinion, that the case will continue, but I presume they were going to amend the charges to include activities that Kanu have undertaken between the time of jumping bail and now. All the allegation of the ECN, burning down police station, killing policemen, may be added to the charges. This is my thinking, that is what the government will likely do. Now, let's even look at this course and the call by the Southeastern people to say we are marginalized. Let's go first, let's say there is some level of truth there. It's not just only the Southeastern people, the Southwestern people, even in the North, there are a lot of people, a lot of tribes that are marginalized. Now, but the classic problem we have with this issue is politics is a game of number. And it's a game of negotiation. Okay? Whatever may happen to the Southeastern people, I was listening to some of the comment of Joey Bokwe in BBC Pidgin. And he made a very fundamental point that most of us have not thought about. To say what the government did to the Yoruba people, if they have done it to the Igbo people, they will have gone to war. Abiola clearly won an election. He was deprived of that mandate. Okay? There is no call that we should start killing people involved in that. Every agitation went through a legitimate means. And you can see this level of negotiation going on politically. Eventually, they got a Yoruba man, not a Yoruba man they want. They got Obasanjo. Nobody voted. Well, don't even say nobody. Majority of the people in the Southwest didn't vote for Obasanjo. But they got it. Okay? Now, you start to look at the political value of the people in the Southeast in the number of votes. They don't actually come to the first five. And you start to ask a question. Why will anybody want to be president needs to negotiate with you when you don't have a block vote that can make serious impact? Okay? But let me also readdress that the way the political configuration of the country is and the way the constitution, talks about who can be the president of Nigeria, no single region, I'm not even talking of geographical zone now, no single region, either the north, the southwest, or the southeast, can on its own, relying on its population, be the president of Nigeria. It's not possible. Even if you have the majority vote, you need to have certain percentage of votes in other regions. 1/3 of the other region, you need to have the vote there. So if you have 0 votes, let's say I'm from the north, all the people in the north voted for me, and I have 0 vote in the southwest, 0 vote in the southeast, I will still not be the president of Nigeria. So you need to actually cross the bridge to negotiate in order to be the president. And we have seen a lot of this. During Obasanjo time, it was actually the north and the southeast that produced it. The southwest didn't vote for Obasanjo. They didn't. Jonathan time, it was the southwest, the first time, the southwest and the southeast that produced Jonathan. The north voted for Buhari. And when we come to Buhari time, it is the marriage between the north and the southwest that produces him. So basically, if the southeast want the presidency, they need to negotiate. They can't force it. They need to negotiate and to say, look, we have this block vote, it can add to something. Okay? And of course, you have to look at their economic value as well. Okay? Internally generated revenue, they don't have the highest. And then, if you are a region talking about separationist idea, how do you expect other regions to trust you? Well, by giving you power, you might likely divide the country as the president. So there's a big lesson here for us that we need to be very strategic and be able to have that bargaining power crossing the bridge and negotiate a political power. That is a lesson that needs to be learned. Okay? So when I come to Sunday Igboho case, of course, everybody agree with the initial idea about community security support. Somebody trying to do what the government failed to do. We all know what happened in Igogo. We all know that. Okay, I have a 34 hectares land in that local government. So I know what goes on. I know the Hausa community. I know what I've lost in terms of their cow coming to eat my fowl. They are even the reason why I don't farm on the land anymore after putting in millions and millions of naira. So we know this. And everybody agreed that the government need to do more in this aspect. But when the whole idea moved from community security support to a call for Yoruba nation, it becomes challenging. Okay? And it's working on a dangerous plan that if the entire Yoruba land secede, automatically security will come, automatically development will come, automatically, everything will be fine. I'm really not sure that just having a nation of the same language will produce those things. And I lay my evidence before you using Somalia as an example. The only country in Africa that is fighting to become all-inclusive state. Other countries are states trying to become a nation. They are a nation trying to become inclusive state. A country of one language, one tribe, one religion. Big conflict. The country is run by 6 clans, making the center to be a bit, not even a bit, majorly powerless. In Somalia, you can go to the market and buy AK-47 for $50. Open market is the hawk it. It's as bad as that. Okay? There is this issue about, we have 100 years agreement when we have this configuration called Nigeria. So it has expired, so we should be able to go on our own. I'm not sure that is true. Even if the agreement exists, the constitution has superseded that. From the independent constitution to 1962 constitution to 1979 constitution to 1999 constitution. Okay? Even if we want to entertain the separation of the Yoruba from the larger Nigerian group, I do ask the question, who are actually the Yorubas? Do you identify Yoruba by language? Or is that a definition in the constitution? Are the Edos Yorubas? Historically, they say they are, but they don't speak Yoruba as a language. Do people in Badagry speak Yoruba as a language? The people in Elaje speak Yoruba as we know it. So these are questions that we need to kind of think about. That where does the Yoruba state start? Where does it end? Okay? Even if we now have a Yoruba state, I presume that the light of Sunday Igboho will not just emerge as the president of Yoruba land. We still need to have a constitution that will discuss how to become the president, and I presume that will be through election. And they are seizing electoral trade men and women that we know. Are we going to ban them from participating in election? And if they partake and they still have their crude means, are they not going to win? the election. We shouldn't forget that Gani Fawehinmi was contested for the president of this country. Didn't win. We shouldn't forget that Femi Falana contested from the governor of Ondo State. He didn't win. So we need to really think about this. Even when we have this state, we call the Yoruba state, let's assume we use the clause, even though there is none, let us assume there's a clause that we can secede, or we use the principle of self-determination as articulated by the United Nations. Are we not going to include this in the clause in the new Yoruba state? So after a few years, Can Lagos State said, we also want to be on our own, since we are relying on our resources. Can Ogun State pull out as well? So where is it going to stop? Is the question I do ask.
My question is very simple.
And are we assuming that when we have a new Yoruba nation, corruption will automatically disappear, which is the pain and the root causes of most of this problem we are experiencing? The Omoyele Sowore case is not a case of secession, but it's a case of I need a better country. I want this government to go. Buhari must go. We shouldn't forget that Sowore started as an activist, a journalist, and became a politician. He contested in the presidential election, and he only won a polling unit in the old federation, which is the one in front of his family house. He didn't win any other polling unit. He didn't win any ward. Neither did he win any local government, any senatorial district, or any state. He didn't. But he didn't take this as a rejection of his position by the people of Nigeria, because that is statistically proven. But he go about saying that I have the mandate of the Nigerian people. I really don't know how to measure that. I don't know who gave him that mandate. And you see him speaking that the Nigerian people are tired of this government. Okay, some people may. Every people might be. But when did we appoint you to speak on our behalf? You can really speak that the activists or member of my political party or member of my organization or the people I've been in touch with are tired. Okay? And most of this goes on social media anyway. And I used to say this, that if social media is so effective, Sowore should be the president of Nigeria today. Because the number of people that would have voted for him on social media. But social media is not real. It contains all kinds of fake news, so many things. The reality is on the ground. Okay? Now, we are all aware of Buhari must go campaign of Sowore. Of course, that is an afterthought because it started with Revolutionary Now, which is why he was arrested and is undergoing trial, which I think it was a wrong strategy by the state. For what? He hasn't committed any crime in that aspect. Okay? I think the charges of treason against Sowore is a misplaced charges. He has never asked anybody to take down the government. Even if he says so, does the evidence suggest so? Because under legal system and international law, it's evident that people can lie against themselves. In the UK, if I call the police and say I just committed a murder, and they come to the location, the first thing they will ask is the evidence, where's the body? I said I threw it away. They are not just going to arrest me and put me before trial just because of what I said. because they know that I can lie against myself. They will have to produce evidence of the body, produce evidence that I'm the one that killed the person, produce evidence of where I secured or procured the equipment I used in committing the crime. That is how responsible government act. They can't just act on whatever somebody is saying. So I do ask this question. From revolutionary now, we went into, I'm talking of Shore's group now, went into NSAS, which they rejected him, then he went into Yoruba Nation now, went into June 12, then you have Buhari Moscow. Right. But I do ask the question, how? There are two ways a president can leave office, maybe three. One, if he died, naturally, then the vice president becomes the president. If he's impeached, then the vice president becomes the president. Or through coup d'etat. Okay? So can we then assume that what Shore is doing or saying is trying to say that he should leave? Either by, maybe there's also the clause of resignation. But none of this will ever produce a president that Shore need, or him as the president. I believe that he should have channeled those efforts to recall all these National Assembly members who can impeach the president and replace them with activists from that local constituency, since he assumed that he's popular. And then we have a National Assembly of people of his like mind who will find it easy to impeach the president and call for a new election. But you cannot use unconstitutional means to get a change, a constitutional change. It really doesn't work. So this is what I think about that, but it's a debate that we can talk about. Now, in terms of Aswab and Boko Haram, it's a clear state that they have rejected the Nigerian state. So it's a classic state case of internal war. Okay? It's entirely different from the case of Igboho, Nnamdi Kanu, or Shore. Entirely different. Okay? These people don't see themselves as Nigerians anymore. They don't. Okay? And we know how we got to this level for them to declare war. And if you look at the north, there is a population problem. Somebody will have 50 children that he cannot actually provide for. All that needs to be done is breastfeeding for 3 years. Once the person is off breast, the child is off breast, they put him to a emergency school. That is his journey in life. He doesn't come back to that family. That family have no link, no bond, nothing. Okay? And we see that even in the Southwest. I was having a discussion with somebody in Lagos who said, look, even the police, they discriminate. And I said, how? They say if they arrest an Hausa man, they will release the Hausa man and keep the Yorubas and elsewhere. But there's a reason for that. And the reason is very clear. If a shoemaker, Hausa shoemaker, is arrested by the police, he doesn't complain. He goes with them. Sorry, I have flu. I apologize. They tell you to make a statement. You tell them what happened, to write it down. They put him in the cell. He stayed there. He will not call any family member. He will not ask anybody to come and see him. He will not beg the police to let him go. He can stay 1 year there, it doesn't matter. Police do not see this as good business. But for us, whom our parents have invested heavily on, and the expected return, even if not to them, to ourselves. Before we are detained 1 hour, the family member have turned up. Negotiation have started. Police have given the price for bail. It's purely a business decision rather than a discriminatory issue. I know there can be other examples. Now, we do ask a question when we met with one of the head of a big government agency in Abuja. And the question we ask is this, that look, you have been working with the military by virtue of your mandate. How come ISWAP can locate Shikau and get him to kill himself, and the Nigerian military cannot? He responded in one language. He said, Ameen, those guys are doing business. If the war ends, where will they get all their resources? That's what is the size of this Boko Haram fighter. These are experienced military that fought in Liberia, fought in Sierra Leone. Especially, you look at the forces against Charles Taylor. Those are forces trained in Libya. Okay? The famous January 6th in Sierra Leone, where when the rebel forces came into the city and massacred a lot of people, took over the whole free town. Who kicked them out? Nigerian soldiers. So that is a question we need to ponder about. And there have been a huge economic loss in that region. And we do make at times erroneous conclusion to say, oh, why are they arresting Kanu and they are not arresting the Boko Haram, or they are rehabilitating Boko Haram, they are not rehabilitating, you have all those comparisons. It's totally different. In the north, there's a lot of ignorance. The Talakawas, the level of poverty is huge. It's not an excuse, okay? But because the northerner do not put so much, they don't put so much importance on their life. To join Boko Haram is so simple. They don't look at the business case of joining them. It's that little money they can get. Okay? In the southeast, it's different. In the southwest, it's different. Okay? But we can also not compare that presently, in the last 6-8 weeks, we know how many bandits has been killed. They are not even arresting them anymore. Once they confront them, they exterminate them. Okay? So we need to be careful with this comparison because the theater of war are different. The people who are engaging in the north are really the fighting force, the army. It's a clear case of war. Okay? In the southeast is the police or the army playing the police role. They have a mandate to arrest and to prosecute if possible. And the mandate is entirely different from clear war situation. When it comes to banditry, kidnapping, and others issue, we all know the role that climate change plays around this. Okay? The desertification has worsened, so cows have to move to the south, creating conflict with southern farmers and people in the middle belt. We know that. We know that the bandits see this as a new business in the north. And the target states, really not individuals. They arrest students, they ask states to pay 500 million because they have more money. So it's business for them. And we can see increase in banditry attack in Kaduna State because they want to teach the short man a lesson. Because you are trying to spoil business for us. If that model works, other states will adopt it. They don't want that. Okay? And El-Rufai position is clear. By the time you pay ransom to bandits, you are not just paying ransom to release your family member. You're already financing the kidnapping of the next group of people until we show that this business cannot be lucrative anymore. It's not going to stop. And I just want to touch on the fact that we know kidnapping actually started in the south. In the south, everybody have an address. You have a village, you have somewhere you live or somewhere you domicile. It's easy to trace you. In the north, they don't. The bandits live in the forest. There is no physical address. So that makes it much more easier for them to do the business. Because you can't just say, okay, who are the people that came? Oh, they are the gang from Fajuyi Park. And then we can locate them and pick them up. No, it doesn't work that way. They're in the forest. You need to locate them in the forest first. Okay? But we have read about some gains in terms of reducing the level of banditry. So have a look at all these issues. We should be able to come to a mini conclusion, not a kind of a conclusive one. That this changing the change should start from the permanent voters card. Okay? We need to start with a political change which will provide the leadership for the cultural change. Okay? Because the cultural change is also very important. I was actually shocked when I saw Abba Buhari in Anambra and saying that Obi Kubana is my personal friend. That's why I came. But as a senior police officer, witnessing the defaced of the Naira, which is a crime. Okay? And this is issues where government action have cultural effect. No one is going to interrogate the source of wealth of not just Obi Kubana, but everybody that spend their money that way. No one. I'm very sure that Obi Kubana and his friend are not in the list of the richest Nigerians. Okay? We saw the wedding of Dangote's son. We are missing this kind of rascality. And this is what our youth glorify. They want to be like that. So there is a cultural problem around that. So to get a PVC, you must be 18 years and above. in Nigeria, okay, or you have registered to vote in previous election, or you want to change your voting location, you have lost it or damaged it, or you want to correct some of the information you have on it. So you need to visit your local government area, the INEC registration center, to start the process and search for the polling unit that is closest to you. You need to produce proof of evidence of who you are, either through your birth certificate, national passport, ID, national ID, driving license. Then you'll be captured. A temporary voter's card will be issued to you, and then they will contact you when your permanent voter's card is ready. So that is where you can vote. But you can also access this information through an register online. That's online registration portal. Okay? So I will stop there, and then we can have a fruitful exchange of ideas. Thank you very much. Over to you, convener.
I've actually, you wouldn't know. I've got my notepad there. I've got quite a few things, and I've gotten so engrossed. And that's the way I like to do these things. It's been a very big opportunity for me to learn as well. And I thank you. I mean, I particularly thank you for not uh, for I thank you for not holding back. Usually at times, usually we usually get very fantastic speakers to come and deliberate on these things with us. But basically, at times you watch some other programs elsewhere, you see quite a lot of the speakers, they're playing safe. They don't thank you for not playing safe. And rather than playing safe, you've actually gone to the nitty-gritty of the matter. And I'm just gonna ensure that right now that we give as many people as possible the opportunity to be able to make their views known on these key issues. And I'll start with I can see a few hands up. I can see Raman forwarded to me. And I think we've got a few questions as well on our social media stream. I'm going to try to take everything. And I've got a few questions myself. I mean, it's been a very fantastic session. And I particularly like that aspect about our freedom fighters, our human rights leaders, the fact once you've contested an election, in fact, it places you in a more difficult situation, position than other people to now call for a change of government through means other than the ballot box. So and for example, you did make mention of people who did not win beyond even their words, their polling booths, who did not win their words, and actually projecting themselves as actually speaking for the people of Nigeria. And I know you questioned a lot of other things. These are things that we're going to give people room for comments on. Like we say, what sets us apart as a platform for liberty and democracy is unlike others who make the judgments. We don't make the judgments. We give you the room. We give you the opportunity to be able to listen to every part of the conversation and to come up with your own view. So I'm going to go to Raman Famodi to me first. I'm going to mute myself and give you the opportunity to. So Raman, unmute and let's hear you. Sorry, I believe I'm going to change the settings now. So that we can allow people to unmute. Just bear with me a second. We're going to do that now. Just bear with me, please. Okay, so that's been sorted. So unmute yourself, Raman, and let's hear your thoughts. Let's have your thoughts.
Hi everyone. I mean, What a word. You've been so fantastic. And you have actually hit the nail on the head. What more have we got to say? Nothing, to be honest with you. But I'm going to start. I don't normally have the time to be part of this, how do I describe it? Discussion when it comes up. But at the mention of your name, I have to create that time today to be part of this meeting. And I must confess, you didn't disappoint me. Thank you very much. I'm worried. And at some point, I'm sick. And I have my reason for saying that, and I'm going to ask this question. First of all, I've seen this platform today, and I'm really greatly disappointed. We've got 13 people coming on board to be part of this discussion. In a country where we know we are suffering. And considering the fact that if we look at the amount of us that are abroad being part of this program today, you discover we have very, very minimal amount of people that are not in diaspora being part of this symposium. And that leads me to my question. And Ameen and Tunde, I need a sincere answer to this question. In the last couple of days, I've engaged myself with what is happening over the social media, the YouTube, the WhatsApp, and every other thing around there. And I came across an individual yesterday that came across in such a way that makes me feel actually very sick. And what did this guy say? He said, for every pandemonium that is being caused in Nigeria, is being caused by those of us overseas in diaspora. I want an answer to that. Is it true? Given what has happened today, majority of those of us that are on this platform today are actually in diaspora. Does that take a right bus for that individual that sent that message on social media? I don't know. Is it because we are in part of this war? We kind of see things the way it's supposed to operate. Then bringing those things across to those people at home. But the people at home did not even understand how things are supposed to operate. Why? Now, you've dwelled on so many discussions, and I'm not going to take so much of our time. And you are right on point. Why is it? Go back to my first question. It is those of us in diaspora that has been able to pinpoint all these weaknesses, problems, and troubles with Nigeria.
So we are looking at
the only individual that I have seen came out was Sunday Igboho. It was the only individual that was not in diaspora. What are our people at home doing? I need a serious answer to that question. It was the only individual that was not in diaspora. What are our people at home doing?
Can I go?
I need a serious answer to that question.
Okay.
And that will be my question.
Can I go?
Just hold on, Ameen. Basically,
okay. Thank you,
Can I go? I want you to simplify the question again. Can you break them down into like two simple questions?
Can I go?
Just hold on, Ameen.
Two simple questions.
Yeah, I know, Ameen. I know, but I want you to simplify the question again. Can you break them down into like two simple questions? That's why, you know.
I understand.
Okay, I'm going to come down and simplify it. Thank you, Ameen, for understanding what I'm saying.
for the
Right.
benefit of
Why is it that the majority of this agitation, understanding the problem with Nigeria, are actually coming from those of us in diaspora? Those of us at home, what is the problem with us? Why is it that our voice are not being heard? I think that would be the simplest way to put this question across.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, I mean, fire on, please.
Thank you. Let me start by saying that one of the very impressive lecturers that I ever taught me, Grams, I can't remember his first name, at the University of Physics, taught me political comparison. And he made the argument that you can do a comparative study between one political system and another, or you can do a comparative study with just a single political system across time. Now, before I try to iron on what you said, I want to share very good experience. Okay? Because you have experienced a different political system, either in the UK or elsewhere, you start to question how things are not being done properly. And when you start to introduce an ideal way of doing things, you start hearing the language that this is not London, this is Nigeria. Okay? I used to run a farm, and I have about 12 staffs. And I know that from where I'm coming from, you need to build the capacity of your staff. And I send them for a 3 days hand-on practical training at IITA Ibadan. So after calculating their transport costs and accommodation, I gave them extra 13,000 naira each as contingency. So when they came back, they find it difficult to account for the money because they don't want to return the contingency if they didn't spend it. In fact, one of them said, I never hear where you return money to the company. Okay? So they start to inflate things, working from the balance backward. Okay? So which becomes very difficult for you to challenge if you are not there. But the reason why I gave them the extra contingency is they could take a vehicle from Shagam to Ibadan. The vehicle broke down 7 p.m. in the night. I don't want them to sleep on the road. They can just jump to another vehicle and they have extra money to pay for that. So it becomes a problem. What did I do? 2 months after, I came back and bought all of them BlackBerry phones. They really loved it. So that was the time BlackBerry was very popular. So now, if you are going for an official trip, once you enter the vehicle, you give us a security report, you are departing Sharibagamo Park, and this is how much you pay. Once you get to the destination, you give us that information. So easily we can have an online accountability process of how you are spending the company money. But they will resist that because that is not what they are used to. Okay? And that gives a clear indication of the problem. When people challenge change, it's because they benefit from the status quo. They benefit from the status quo. And because people in diaspora already understand the difference between an ideal situation and the one in the country, you are able to provide a suggestion. Which takes me to the second question. Is that a problem? Or is it an opportunity? Okay? It depends on how you look at it. Okay? Because understand what when you look at things, the ideal situation we have in the UK, for example, we have it because it has been built over many years and many centuries. Okay? We have situation in this country where women were not allowed to vote. And one of them have to sacrifice her life to put the issue in the front burner. Okay? We have situation where women face a lot of violence because they hear their voice. You know, men actually got batons and went and beat them. If I'm lying, just go and watch BBC documentary, The Making of Modern Britain. We have situation in this country whereby prime ministers are selling privileges to people that doesn't want it. Blatant corruption. So they have come of age over the years. Okay? Now they have learned their lesson on how not to do things. We have not learned those lessons. We have not taken into account what the reality on the ground, whether those changes we have suggested are implementable. We have not. And there may be a reason why people resist change. And we have not tried to look into that reasons and provide a solution to those resistant force before those change can be imbibed. And I give you a good example of my personal experience. When I was working with Amnesty International, all of a sudden they just say, I mean, you have to cover Gambia. Gambia? That is a toxic state. Nobody touches that when it comes to human rights issue. Because he has a crazy leader called Yahya Jammeh. So we did our scoping mission. Scoping mission like just going quiet into the country, like a tourist. And when I came back, I bought a souvenir, a picture of Yahya Jammeh. I put it in my office, so I see it every day. So when we are ready, I discovered that the major problem why the Gambia cannot come out and protest is because they don't have the trust and the confidence that the international community will support them. It's legitimate. So when we say they are timid, it's not that they are timid, but they are not sure that when they start, they won't just turn into guinea pig, and the international community will not. And we're able to verify this when we have meetings with United States officials, people from the foreign affairs in the UK. When you say Gambia, they kind of say, well, it's a small country. And the first thing I decided to do is to make sure we draw attention to the country, is to show the people that it can be done. And to do that, we make ourselves a human sacrifice. We went into the country and we infuriated the president. We know what to do. We know how he's going to react. It was a risk. We were arrested, put into jail. Okay? And they were trying to charge us for treason. No, for espionage. Okay? Because we find a Gambian in a police station and this guy has been declared by the state that we don't have it. We found it. We wanted to do something that the government will react. So the news is no longer about Gambia, it's about Amnesty International staff arrested in the Gambia. Now, it now makes many countries to start to look into that. How can that happen? Which stupid country will arrest Amnesty International staff? That is news. It was news then. Okay? Spend a day in detention, came out, have some few days discussion going back and forth from police station. With the Nigerian government intervention, not even the US and the UK, we were asked to go, and we are actually kind of make a message that the government can be challenged. And we have done that. We have challenged it. Now, so to avoid the notion, the citizen, that the government have dealt with us, and that is why we left the country, we never come back. 5 months after, we went back. We went back. We want to show how powerless the state can be. We know what to expect. We are ready for another arrest. And we went back. But this time around, we are only speaking to the government officials. And we have security officers following us everywhere. We have to go to the toilet, they follow you. When we leave the hotel, they go into your room. We have taken the security. And the whole citizen couldn't believe it. Nobody had ever done this before. To up a challenge to a crazy president like that. Because there is always the threat of rearrest. And we needed to do that. And that gave the people some level of confidence. And we went back, we released our report, we published it in Abuja, we targeted it, then we started Gambian Day of Action. With those in diaspora first, then practically the people. So what did the people do? They have this confidence. They started the discussion and they used their PVC. They voted the president out of power. All the political parties came together as one and presented one candidate. That is the only chance they have. And once their candidate won, they already know that the president is not going to hand over. He's not going to leave office. Then we have to ignite the other aspect of the work. And I've left Amnesty there. Then I called ECOWAS, briefed them, and they went in. The rest are history. The Nigerian soldiers were there to kick out the president forcefully once his term expired, and now they have a state they can call their own. This is how changes happen. This took nothing less than 7 to 10 years to achieve. Okay? Even though I can't say with all sense of satisfaction that the new president now is now becoming another Jammeh, but this is how changes happen. And you can see that in this situation, we are not just throwing the new things we know in the West to them. We are working with them. Now, the problem with the diaspora solution is the reality of it. And let's use Sunday Igboho as an example. We love what Sunday Igboho is doing. We know that. In diaspora, yes, this is what we need. But what we love about Sunday Igboho is the security protection aspect of his work. When it transformed to secession, we didn't think that through very well. There is a danger we need to know where constitutional changes cannot be led by talks, because it involves a lot of legal connotation. Number one, you must believe in the ideology of what you are campaigning on. Okay? You must look at the antecedent of the person leading this. Sunday Igboho led the fight in Modakeke against Ife. How many diaspora people knows that? How many people have died in that conflict? He says it, but we don't count it. Okay? One of my family members, who's one of the people supporting Sunday Igboho, said, no, Sunday Igboho is, I said, look, but he doesn't have the intellectual capacity to lead us out of Nigeria. He said, no, those who have will not do it. I said, but they did it in 1960. So why can't they do it now if it makes sense? Okay? And when we give Sunday Igboho information, He believes us in the diaspora. Okay? And I remember the person saying that, Toba Biwori, let them go and arrest him. I said, but where are you getting this information from? Gani Adams was the leader of OPC. He has a standing army. He was arrested and put in jail. Nothing happened. Not too long ago, he was arrested and put into jail. Abiola was arrested and put into jail. So how come some people who cannot be arrested and put? And you must understand this. The Yoruba edifice and the way we think is different. Our human capital investment is huge. We are not people that lay down our life easily. We are not. Because we are people that believes in future, that believes in family, that believes in so many things. So you are not going to get a quick army of people to come and lay down their life for you. No, you are not going to get that. You can get few protesters that can protest and go back to their house. But to check that you won't get, tell every protester that sign off your right to leave because you might actually die by, look at how many people you will get. Okay? This is not to justify whether the attack on Chundugbowo is correct. I don't think it's right. But when we give this impression from the diaspora that you are doing the right thing, but we know he wasn't doing the right thing. We know some of the postulations were fake. All this idea that, oh, the UN will create a Yoruba land does not sit anywhere in international law. And I told my sister, I said, look, it doesn't sit anywhere. You must know I'm an international law expert. I should know. It doesn't happen. The UN does not create a nation. The process of joining the UN are four. Only one of it is to accede to the treaty of the previous nation. When those nations have created themselves, not the UN creating them, like the case of South Sudan. Okay? And the issue of secession is not what states take lightly. It's not an African thing. We know what is going on in Spain. We know what is going on in Russia. Okay? So these are issues that we need to consider. So in answering that question,
so I mean, because of our time, I'm gonna, because there are quite a lot of questions, and I think people.
I'm not sure if I've answered that question, but just to quickly mention,
I think you've actually covered a lot, and Rahman is still here. If he doesn't feel, it's just because of our time. We're running, and because you joined us middle. But basically, I do not intend keeping us more than 10 minutes beyond the deadline. We're trying everything in our part to ensure we keep to the. There are quite a lot of questions there for you. There's so many questions because you've covered so many things. Usually, the way it is, we would have to still, of course, we always bring you whenever you're always available. I know you're always available for us, but I'm just trying to see how many of these questions we can answer. I don't know. There are so many questions. But first of all, let me say, is there any other person who wants to say something on this call? Anybody else wants to say something? If you want to say something, just use the hand tool. Raise your hand, and we got a number of questions from social media, but I'm not just sure what we can take because of our time. But if you look through the chats, I know that the first one was our government. AG cannot claim, Attorney General cannot be claim to be unconscious of these provisions. The actions of our government in recent times is antithetical to human rights. So many indices. I don't know what this person meant and what particularly he or she was referencing. Because I know, I mean, they talk about the extraordinary, so-called extraordinary rendition analysis, but I believe the international human rights, what's it called now, which is the which is which is probably the numero uno human rights organization in the world, which is a subset of the United Nations, said they had investigated that, and Nnamdi Kanu was properly, everything was legally done. Let's not forget that. They said it was legally done, and if it was, I mean, I actually did cover it. I mean, did mention that once you are a fugitive, it is different. And people who talk about he's a British, forget he is a Nigerian citizen. He is. If you're a British, I cannot lose my Nigerian citizenship because I was born a Nigerian. I can lose a British citizenship if I misbehave. They can actually take it off me. It is in the law, so, and if I'm involved, if you're applying for a visa, you have to tick so many boxes. They put there, have you been involved in acts of terrorism? Have you been a sponsor of terrorist acts? I want to plead with us, please ensure there's no noise coming from your background, or just mute yourselves. There's so many things. If you answer yes to those questions, more often than not, you won't even get a visa. So there's so many aspects, and we need to, and there are also rules that apply to dual citizens. If you're a citizen of a country, and you now take dual citizenship, if you and your parent country, if you have issues, there's only a limit to how much your adopted country can actually come in. And the fact, don't forget, people tend to forget this, and I must help us bring a reminder in at this point, that the Federal High Court seized Kanu's Nigeria and British passports. Were not seized. As part of his bail conditions, he was required to submit them, and he submitted them. They were in the they still are in the care of, but obviously he must have gotten a renewal with the British authorities, probably declared it as lost, or maybe those ones just took sides with him and decided to issue him a new passport. But his Nigerian passport is still there. So when people say he did not travel with his Nigerian passport, it is fundamentally wrong, because the court was that court is not even was, is properly constituted. It is a court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's a sovereign court, and that court, as part of Kanu signed and Shorties also signed to the idea of him going on bail, and these are the conditions, and he agreed. He acceded to those conditions, and because of that, he was released on bail. And that does not make people say he has renounced Nigeria. He said Nigeria is a zoo. I cannot renounce my citizenship on radio. Even if I go on radio to say, I say tomorrow I'm no longer a British citizen, I'm no longer a Nigerian citizen, I'm no longer a Canadian citizen or anything, it doesn't avail much. There are processes that I have to go through, and I have to notify them, I have to fill forms, and that is done. I believe someone like maybe Saraki, was he American or British? He did that when he was going to. So we're going to go to Amin, but there are quite a few questions there, and I will want you to answer as many of them as within the time. Someone wrote here, great thoughts, Kenny. Okay, so let's go to Kenny's thoughts. I want to understand that question very well. Have the voices of those abroad been heard? In my opinion, Nigerians have been talking, whether those at home or in diaspora. However, our talks may never yield anything if they are ever matched with actions. If they are never matched, it says if they are never matched with actions. Sorry, let me just let this person in. Okay. If they are never matched, it is true that those abroad are exposed and they understand very well how people, that these foreigners, assess us. Quite very shameful. They are also very exposed to how systems should be run. Hence, they are paying. You will not see them jumping behind politicians or defending them even when they are around, because they are enlightened. They are open to how countries are run. There is an anger in them and a desire for change. Everything in Nigeria is not normal. Yes, worst cases seldom happen in those countries too, but are always out of the media. Those people who even think Lagos is or close to a mega city, they're very sad. We just have to be hopeful. And then you have a follow-up. Great thoughts, Kenny. Sunday Igbo, no individual is as powerful as the state, though the state is characterized with gross abuse of rights, payment of lip service to insecurity, and fight against corruption, among others. Sunday and the other Yoruba Nation agitators need to be more practical, tactical, and strategic in their agitations. Mr. Ibukun Ayodele, as Showora is not even encouraging supporters to go and register for their PVC, yet he has been going about shouting revolution. Of course, these are comments. We're not saying we have any facts regarding this. The best way to ensure we get a change in 2023 is getting more people to register and educate them about the change we desire. And ask Mr. Ayodele, how can we as citizens make kidnapping less lucrative? How are citizens liable for the increasing level of kidnapping and banditry? How can we have an immediate systemic change? Then, Comrade Ameen, what's your take on recent rejection of electronic transmission of results by National Assembly and APC-led representatives? In fact, that question is fundamentally faulty because some PDP members, if you do the head counts that day, you know that some PDP members actually also voted. You know, there will be one or two at least. They're fantastic submission as always. Always proud of you, sir. I believe we've covered quite a lot of all the things there. Prince Ugochukwu Oji, are you trying to ask a question? Prince Austin Oji. Okay, I thought I saw the mic unmuted from your end. Okay, you've written your comment. Austin or G. You can't sit at home not voting and expect change to take place. I mean, let's give you 7 minutes and then let's just have you address as much as possible. I know we have to bring you back on this.
Okay, quickly. I will just let me start with the comment with citizenship of Nnamdi Kanu, how that will help. Now, we are aware that he traveled with a British passport. We are aware that that would have been issued by the British government, otherwise the fingerprint will not work. Now, it is possible that somebody might be considered as a political prisoner. It's possible that way. And we have also issue of human rights defenders when they have to go on exile and their passports are seized by their parents' country. Any other country can produce, many people don't know this. If I'm a refugee supplant in Mali, which means I'm in Mali, I can't go to my country because of political differences or because of the work I do, the Malian can issue me a Mali passport, but with information from my Nigerian passport.
Yeah.
All the information on this is going to be, the passport number is going to be that of my Nigerian passport. Okay? So that is quite possible. Now, if we understand the way extradition law worked, and we step back and look at the genesis, it actually came from the deficiency of law of the sea. It doesn't really matter which citizen of a country are. You know, it's about pirates going to this place, stealing their property and running to the sea. Because by law, 200 meters after nautical mile is a no man's land. So the country A can no longer arrest you when you're above that. So you can just go to the country B on the other island and be spending your loot. So country B and country A come to what? An extradition agreement, which means if I need you, country B will produce you, arrest you and produce you. So it really doesn't matter what citizen you are. If the Nigerian government will show the Kenya that he is undergoing a trial and they want him to continue the trial and they can provide evidence of that, I really don't think anybody will challenge that. You can't actually prevent people from the rule of law. I remember when I was working in Amnesty in Nigeria, somebody came to me and said, the police want to arrest me. You need to protect me. I said, we can't do that. Arrest is legal. Under the law, we should also tell them that you are here. We can't be, keeping you from arrest because arrest is legal. What is not legal is for them to keep you for more than required days without charging you to court. We need to understand all this, okay? So the issue of what international law provide is the British government can give consular services to Kanu, which means observing the trial, possibly getting a lawyer for him he doesn't have. But they cannot shield him from justice. They don't do that to their people over here.
I'm happy you're saying this because there's a lot of fake things being put out there.
You have a lot of, it is just that unrealistic expectation.
And they're even saying that the development partners will take over the trial. You know, all these are
not possible.
They cannot.
Let me just mention.
He's not a Nigerian citizen. It's different, but he's
let's even assume he's not a Nigerian. Let's even assume
Margaret Thatcher's son, you know, who was arrested for coup plotting in Southern Africa. You know, he had to take a political deal to actually.
Thank you. You must do the trial first, sentence, and they can negotiate for you to come and serve the sentence in your country.
Yes.
They can't shield you from the law.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, there is this unrealistic assumption about the British and the US. And I can take everybody back. This is a reliable information to the June 12th declaration by Abiola, okay, in Lagos Island. I was writing a research paper and I spoke to one of the actors then, late Ayodele. And he told me that the declaration was not the idea. It was the idea of the international partners. That for them to support Abiola, he needs to declare himself as the president. It wasn't their idea. And they promised heaven and hell that once he declares himself as the president, then they can focus on him and provide him and even bring soldiers and all those things. But what did they do? Nothing. They ended up in prison. All those who played those active parts, those who escaped went on exile. But that was an idea that came from development partners. So we have this unrealistic idea of what I just told you about my Gambian experience. The Gambian government didn't respect the British consular general. They didn't respect the US. In fact, the ambassador of the US to the Gambia actually took my house, my hotel key, went into my room to bring my Nigerian passport because I wasn't having it with him when they arrested me. But still, the Gambian government respected the Nigerian consular officers when they came because they didn't come to say, please release them. They said, I have the authority of the Nigerian government to provide all legal service for Mr. Ameen, and we don't want to hear that he disappeared. So charge him to court or release him. That was their message. They are not begging him. They are not telling the Gambian government, please don't do this. And when they released her, they released her to the Nigerian consular officer, not even to the US or to the UK. So we have this unrealistic assumption that these people, they can do so many things. They won't do anything against their interest. The infidelity with the state is more important to them than Nnamdi Kanu. The British government want to have access to the Nigerian state. They won't rubbish that because of Sunday Igboho or Nnamdi Kanu. They won't. They won't do that. Okay? So I just want us to understand that. And I also want to mention quickly that in Sunday Igboho's case, I think it was erroneous for an agitator to run away from his house. I have never seen a case when Gani Fayemi wants to be arrested and he went through the window or the ceiling. Okay? Or Femi Falana or most of these activists. It is a beliefs. Even though I really don't know what they will charge him for. Let's take the arms evidence away. I really don't know what they will charge him for because he have not actually committed any classic crime. Okay? He can go for the Yoruba state, fine, but he hasn't set up an army to actualize that. But when you take guns from the custom, it's a normal street rule that Sunday Igboho didn't ascribe to. Even armed robbers, when they are confronted with the police at the scenes of their crime, they try as much as possible not to kill any policeman or to take their arms because they know the implication. Because the police will go to any length to retrieve those guns. And that was actually one of the things that happened. In this case, 2 custom guns were collected according to the report. The custom are not just going to leave it. They have to retrieve the federal government property by all means necessary. I don't know if I've covered a lot of the comments, but if there's anyone I missed, just draw my attention to it.
I must really thank you for you. You've actually covered a lot, and it's so instructive. It's so instructive that I mean, one of the reasons why we really love having you around is you have a way of covering quite a lot of you know uh, aspects that even other people will leave out. And you notice, I'm sure you have, I've said it before, I've just been busy typing, writing, taking notes myself. And I'm happy that you did mention the guns from the customs. For those, we already know that the government, they're not comfortable because people are asking questions about so-called favoritism of certain people. The Mieti Allah, they're free to say whatever they like. And when other people talk, the comments gets really fidgety. But you cannot put yourself in a situation whereby you make it easy for the government to get you. I did mention many, many weeks back, we had a session then, and someone was saying they had the authority to go and open the border and I'm saying that is the fundamental right. It is only the states that can take the decision. Even state governments cannot take that decision. It is the federal government that can decide to open and close a border. And I see, I want to thank you for covering a lot of people, even those the freedom fighters, many of them are using ignorance to enslave our brothers and sisters all over the place. If you watch the video of the invasion of the border, the Diroko border, one of them was saying that one of them was very angry when someone was interviewing him, and he said, why would they all the borders were closed before. Now they open the border in Niger State, and now they're allowing food to come into Niger State from across the border. Now they refuse to open the ones that belong to us in the southwest. And I ask myself, Niger State is landlocked. It is in the middle somewhere of Nigeria. It is surrounded all around by states
Where's
in
the border?
Nigeria.
Where's the border?
We are a federating nation. A state cannot have a border, which is one of the reasons I was laughing when Governor Wike and Co. and Governor El-Rufai were saying they were closing the borders of their states during the COVID-19 thing. You only have boundaries, you do not have borders. So where is the border in Niger State that was? And yet many of these people were shouting at that event and using it as the excuse to go and invade the border and to seize guns from people. And I did mention then, look, at times when people are pushing us, I would know that I did not believe. People said, "Oh, wow, the government was they will not dare. They were too afraid." I said, "No, these people they also know that this man is not an easy man. He's a powerful man. Sunday Igboho is a powerful man. Let's face facts. So they would have also been doing a lot of their own investigations on the ground. What are his weaknesses? Where did he get his powers from? They said guns cannot work against him. This cannot. How can we make those guns penetrate? Those are things. They are natural. If you're going against an opponent, you want to know the mark of a good general is the ability to spring surprises. And it is our responsibility, all of us watching on social media, myself, yourself, all our members in house today. Yes, there's injustice in our nation, and we must continue to insist that those injustices are addressed. But within the context of the fights to eradicate those injustices, we must not also embark on lawlessness or begin to use injustices of our own. Like when you turn on your TV and there's someone who is supposed to fighting for the liberty of the Yoruba or the Igbo nation or the Hausa nation or something, and the person is cursing every other member of that tribe that does not believe in their struggle, saying their wives will die, their children will die. These are the questions I've asked some people in that struggle. That how does it? Are you saying that if indeed there is actually quote and unquote a Fulani enslavement, do you want us to leave that enslavement to now be enslaved to a few of you as well, who will not take no for an answer? If you believe in something, none of us has the right not to believe in it. Those are key questions. I mean, let's have you finalize this, and then we'll
Thank you.
continue.
Very quickly, two things I just want to mention on the issue of evidence being placed. This is the danger of the diaspora's view. Okay? Now, the question we need to ask ourselves, okay, evidence are being placed in Sunday Igboho's house as an excuse to arrest him. Okay, maybe those guns are not there. But why do we continue to deceive ourselves? We saw when Sunday Igboho went to Igogon, he picked up AK-47 and shot bullets to the head. That was on live video. We saw that. Okay? Now, by the time he left Igogon, he went to Ekiti, he went to Osun State. Now, he's putting together a small army who believes in him. Okay? The government want to prevent a reoccurrence of Boko Haram. Okay? Because the danger is when you allow somebody that does not understand the issue to lead an army. This is what happened in Sierra Leone. Fude Sanko was an illiterate sergeant. Look at what he turned the whole country to. They lost 20,000 people in that war. Okay? So the state is extremely very powerful. Okay? And they have the ability to annex information from everywhere. So you will have security experts within the state who have looked at the implication of this and say, we just need to keep this guy quiet. Otherwise, the way it's going is going to get out of hand. Okay? Now, Sunday Igboho is not the first agitator. Okay? Fela agitated for injustice. Okay? But you have never seen Fela using illegal means, holding arms, or running away from his house when they come to arrest him. Okay? So why is it that the government didn't plant fake information in Fela's house? Let's talk about the airport something, it's a different thing entirely. But the point is that Sunday Igboho is not of critical importance to the state. It does not determine the existence of the state. They might just be trying to prevent another movement of people that will exacerbate the security situation. Okay? But the point is, when you fire at security agent when they come to your house, whether it's legitimate or not, you will expect the security agent, first of all, to protect their people from being killed. And by doing so, they might kill. Okay? I don't think they went there to kill Sunday Igboho boys because they arrested about 12 of them. They could have killed them if they want. And I was also telling people talking about Nnamdi Kanu. I said, look, Nnamdi Kanu was on the flight with the Nigerian security operatives. They could have just opened the door of the aircraft and throw him out. They could have killed him. Nobody will know. Nobody knows that he was arrested until he got to Abuja. Okay? But they put him through the process of rule of law. And they want to do the same for Sunday Igboho. So I really don't think that planting those guns in Sunday Igboho's house helps government, is not evidence, but the evidence they need. But the court will look into that because the gun found there, if the federal government procured gun, the evidence will be there. And people will testify when those guns were collected from them. But what the DSS says is that you can't just beat a policeman and take his gun and put it in his house, and you won't expect the police to come and collect their gun back. They will. Those are mistakes. He has been doing this. Nobody cares about him. I don't even think they want to touch him. But when you start building arms you are gradually spelling out that you are declaring war against the state. That is dangerous because it's easy for Sunday Igboho to build an army of people that believes in him, even though he doesn't really know what he's doing. That is dangerous. I think that is what the government are trying to do. So, like I said, the court will prove whether the DSS came with those arms. But in my experience, I really don't think they really need those arms to be there to arrest him. I really don't think so. They have evidence on video that he has arms. So they could use that evidence to arrest him. They don't need to have those physical evidence to arrest him. Thank you for that.
Wow, thank you so much. We would have to call it a day at this point, but I know Ibukun Ayodele there. I believe.
You are muted, Tunde.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I think we'll probably have to be calling it a day at this point. This is the longest we've done in the last 2 months or thereabout. But it's been very rich, and the questions keep coming. Comrade Kende Okunuga, it's what I'm just going to do just to show a bit. All of you online, I'm going to give all of you 1 minute. Those of us who are that we've got a few comments from we cannot take the questions on Facebook, but I think there are a few comments there. Thank you so much for the present. Thank you for today's seminar. This is brilliant. I'm impressed. So I believe all this really have to do with our speaker for the day, Comrade Ameen. And I'm not expecting less. It's those of you who do not know him that will say this. When you meet him physically, he's much smaller in stature, But I also know he's really filled with a lot. And I remember in university days, he was also commandant of the much hated cadet. Those of us who were on the other side hated everything about them, So Amin is someone who knows his onions. See, a lot of people read up a few things and just bamboozle all around, but Amin knows his onions. I thank you so much, Amin. I'm going to give everybody here just 1 minute. Please, if you use less than 1 minute, it will be appreciated. I'll just call you as you appear on my screen. If you have any comment, anything to add, please just keep it strictly to 1 minute. Comrade Raman, we call you first. Raman, very quickly, 1 minute.
You see, Comrade Ameen, you've been fantastic, and I appreciate everyone that been part of this seminar today. I think the only little thing I will advise is how do we go about reorientating our people that they need to start shooting the arrow, and we are here to support them.
When you say arrow, you need to clarify, as in they should go and buy arrows and start shooting from where?
No, they should be leading from the front.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. They should be leading from the front.
Okay.
We are not in Nigeria, but when they are from the front, it gives us that power that we're actually looking for, like Sunday Igboho have done. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Comrade Raman. Let's go to Comrade Michael Aluko. 1 minute. If your 1 minute, I believe, is in transit or something. 1 minute.
No. So yeah, the speaker has actually spoken well, and I'm highly educated today. But there's 2 things that I want to just quickly point out, and the one is he was talking about economic, and he was talking about cultural, and political and cultural. So I think the third thing that should be added is the political. For any country to survive any stuff, we have to be political, cultural, and economic stable, which right now is zero for our great country. And the second other thing is including in the constitution, for anybody to become a president, that person must have a percentage of vote from not only the north, but it has to come from the west and from the east. And I think that is the advantage one of the sections of the country is using against the other. They believe they have the political power. This has to be structured. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, Comrade Michael Aliko. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Very quickly, Comrade, as you appear on my screen, like I said, I'm just calling you as you appear on my screen, not in any. Ameen Mudathir Ameen, yeah, just 1 minute. Mudathir Ameen.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so very much, Comrade Ameen, for having me here. Well, I would like to say that I am being enlightened. I didn't even expect getting much of this, but he has tried as much as possible to cover all the things I didn't even expect as a platform. This time, and I must say, I'm really enlightened. It has been an insightful session for me. Thank you very much, and I look forward to learning from this platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mudathir. Thank you for joining us today. You are appreciated. Very, very quickly, I believe Comrade Ayodele Lukman. You're next. Ayodele Lukman. Okay, we need to move fast. If that person is not unmuting, then we'll go to our DSG, Comrade Kenny Gandhi. Comrade Kenny Gandhi.
Good evening.
Yeah,
good evening. Good evening. Yes, Mr. Ameen, thank you so much for taking us up on the subject again. I think I'll be enjoying you for the second time. And the last time you were here, you spoke and were us some of the issues in our country. Again today, we did more than we did last time. So that is what else to add than to thank you. Next, on you.
Thank you so much, DSG.
You are an asset to this fight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Comrade Okunuga. Next, I believe quite a few. Okay, I'm not sure that Comrade Oji is able to unmute, and quite a few others are. So let's just go to our section. Why not just give your comment and just give the vote of thanks, and we end this session today.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Convener. I want to sincerely dictator against Speaker Comrade Ameen. He has never disappointed us as well. Decisively with the subject and the issue at hand, and we enjoy him most graciously. So I want to sincerely, on behalf of Pride and all our members, appreciate you for being consistent and for not being economical with the truth. We appreciate your head on, and we thank you for always having our time. And my take is just, I know that eventually we get a better Nigeria, and Nigeria shall be sweet again. But all of us must join our hands, must go and register so as to have the tool and the power of effecting the transformational, the transformation that is required. Thank you, and God bless you also.
Thank you so much, everyone. I mean, we can't end the session without just giving you 1 minute to just say a word. Thank you so much for coming once again. Thank you for always being there to support us. And of course, all the specific projects applied that I've discussed with you, we need to get started, and we need you to be on board on that as much as possible. I know you've given your word, and we're hoping to have you back because we've not concluded on these conversations. We had Mr. Chidi Odinkalu last week, but he could not really touch on a few things, So I'm hoping that we can have you back in a few weeks again to actually touch on a few other areas that time did not permit us to touch on today. So just in 1 minute, let's have you and then we'll close the session.
Yeah, I think two things I just need to mention. One is, I think Plight should be going out there with a clear message around the election. I don't know if everybody have done, I'm talking mathematics now. I'm going to give two calculations. If anybody have done the calculation of a voter being given 10,000 to vote for a candidate, by the time you break that down into 365 days, divided by 4 years, that is 6 naira per day. That is what that senatorial aspirant is giving you. That is what you watch, 6 naira per day. And you can then calculate the 13 million, or what did the senator get, times 12, times 4. So put this side by side for the voters to realize the fraud they are putting themselves into. So I just want to put out there that putting the story, find the message. We have, it's not the time for big grammar. It's just to practically storify it so people can see. So when you say that, give me that money now, then I'll see you in 4 years. What you're asking this guy to pay for is just 6 naira per day. That is what he's giving you for the next 4 years. Now, there was a question about the northern electoral power. There is really no electoral power. The constitution is very clear. Okay? In the north, you have 766. That is 19 for the 3 geographical zones. To win an election in Nigeria, you must score 1/3 of the vote in 27 states of the federation. Okay? So if you're a northerner, if you win 19 states, you still need to go and find 8 states before you can win the election. And you only have 6 states in the southwest, you have 6 in the south-south, and you have 5 in southeast. So you need another region where you can have 1/3 of their vote to be able to be the president of Nigeria. If you don't have 1/3 in 27 states, even if you have the majority vote, you can't be declared as the president. The next person that have lesser vote than you and have 1/3, this is the miscalculation of the Southeastern. If you go ahead with those block votes, you still need all those votes, 1/3 of it. So that is mathematics. Now, the last question I want to respond to, how do we go from here? What support can we give? All we need to do is to start with the local government. Can people of like minds just focus on one local government? Get somebody that is articulate, that is strategic, to be a local government chairman or chairwoman. Okay? And we all remember the days of the mayor of Lagos. It was a template government. Let's have a template government, then other people will follow. If the youth can come together and vote the local government or for local government from a party that is not known and is able to deliver, the youth in Ogbomoso will do the same. The youth in Kano will imbibe that. The youth, those are the strategic change. We just need to show how good governance can be. But we also know that there is a danger. When you put people in front of resources, you can't trust them at times. We have fought so many lost battles. Even with activists that goes into government, it has been a bitter story. So that is why the cultural element is very important. I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Ameen. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on social media, on Facebook. Thank you. On YouTube, thank you for joining us. Please, whatever questions you have, just keep posting them. We'll try our best when we bring Ameen back. We're looking to bring him back hopefully in the next 3 weeks. And we'll be able to discuss quite a lot of all these things again. Till we see you again, have a fantastic night tonight and have a fantastic week ahead. God bless you. Bye for now.
Recording stopped.